Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. I've been on the show with you about 11 years now.
Okay.
Before, there were other co-hosts before that, but it's to the point now, and I think it's hilarious. It's to the point now where people come and ask me questions, and then I look at them and I said, look, I just play radio. I don't know anything. If Fred's the guy, I can tell you what he always says because I listen to him, but, no. But anyway, somebody came to me this week.
That's good.
And he looks at me and he goes, Hey, Mark, he goes, I got my garden all ready. I tilled up the soil and everything, and I put some organic in there, and I've got it all ready to go and everything. He goes, do you think I can plant this weekend? And I'm like, what are you asking me for? I just sit there with Fred. What do I know? So I promised that I would ask you.
Well,
he wants to plant tomatoes,
okay,
and he wants to plant his squash and his cucumbers, and I think he's really into peppers because he likes salsa. So tell me a little bit about, can he go ahead and plant?
Well, the answer is twofold. Yes and yes, but I need to know, is he going to plant started plants that he started indoors on a bench or whatever, or he bought from a nursery, started by 2 or 3 weeks?
Yes, these are plants that were already started.
All right. Then I would tell him there's a little bit of a risk as far as frost is concerned yet. I don't keep official by any means, but I think it's been a while since it's frozen significantly after May 10. Now, I know that it froze one time back in the late 60s at June 4. Just raised Cain with some things in the nursery field. But at the same time, I think he can go ahead. Now, his option would be go with the 3 and hold the tomatoes, because they're all sensitive to a certain extent, but tomatoes will be, perhaps unfrosted. But if you put a tomato in the ground that's too cool, perhaps then also a little on the moist side, it will stagnate to a certain extent. I know one of my friends is a tomato grower, and he has tested tomatoes in many ways. One, he knows that those he planted May 1 and protected as necessary did not fruit in the 80 days or whatever it was until after the ones he had planted May 21st. The reason being, same kind of tomato grown by him, etc. He simply put them in the ground while the soil was moist and cool, and the plants didn't respond well to get going. So, the garden can be started, and certainly if you're starting from seed, it takes X days for most seeds to germinate. The odds are that you could do that and not have any risk of freezing on the new little seedlings, even to the extent that it's called hardening off. A little hard to explain, but the tissues in the plant change with sun, temperature, etc. And he would be getting his little seedlings to harden off by planting them, to get them started from seed through the seedling stage. He might want to keep some row cover on hand, which is a white, light porous, if you will, material that you can just literally lay out, maybe put a stick or something in to prop it up a little bit to not injure the seedlings. But I think he's safe to go ahead at this point, unless he would like to hold the tomatoes in a flat or what have you, keeping them in the sunshine, of course, all day long, where the roots and top can get nice and warm. Then plant the 15th. It's 10 days until I'm comfortable with the odds on getting it freezing. Now, let me talk about freezing. My neighbors, and I think I might have mentioned this on there before, my neighbors always considered I was half nuts, and I confirmed it. Absolutely.
Only half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well.
So I had planted things, and many things, perennials, annuals, a couple of veggies, and it came a freeze warning. So I went out and set up all my sprinklers, the big oscillating types, all the old-fashioned types, no irrigation system, hooked them all up, put them on the faucet, and kept the faucet off until I had the alarm set for 3:30 in the morning, because most freezing starts about that point in time and then on in toward dawn. So I got up and turned all of the sprinklers on that literally covered the entire new planted part of the backyard. When I got up at 6:30, the plants had a double or even triple thick stem. Flowers were encased in ice, and etc. And neighbors on both sides, of course, can see this, and they thought, oh, Lord, now he's proved it. But at the same time, when water freezes at 32, and the little plants had been slightly hardened off, they did not themselves freeze. They got down with the ice on the outside at 32. It probably kept those plants at 32.
Yeah.
And therefore, when it got down into the high 20s, it didn't freeze them. Well, some complimented me on my wisdom. Some said, no, you just confirmed
Yeah.
how crazy you are. But anyhow, that'll help. The water coming out of the hose is at 48 to 55 degrees, depending. And that, of course, will boost the temperature of the surface of the plant. So there are ways to get around it. Row covers will help. Dashing out, like we made paper hats from newspapers when we were children. You can make some paper hats to set down over the plants, the row cover. So there's all kinds of ways to avoid a freeze. But be sure you don't fall asleep before the 11 o'clock news.
There you
so
go.
you can find out what the weatherman may think he knows for sure and get close to protecting your plants.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Hauer and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com